Hey guys, it's Randy here from Vinyljunkie, and this week we're going to be talking about, the vinyl collector's Christmas or Boxing Day. That's a vinyl collector's wet dream. It's Record Store Day, and we're going to be talking with Derek Antonio from Pop Music. So let's get into it. Hello, hello, hello. So we have Derek here from Pop Music in Toronto at Broadview and Gerard, and he's going to be talking to us about his record shop and record store day. Derek, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. It's been a long time coming. I'm so proud of you for doing this.
Thank you, thank you. So before we get into the big show this weekend,
Yeah.
why don't we get into how you got into this industry? I understand you're at HMV for 10 years or so
Yeah.
before pop music opened.
Yeah, I was very fortunate. I mean, I feel like there would have been better times to work for HMV, to be honest, in terms of like other decades. But being part of HMV's kind of final chapter, as you would call it, taught a lot of resilience, and we really didn't have as much resources. The labels weren't making money. Streaming didn't exist yet, and so really, what the foundation of the Superstore was to be like the fans' paradise. And so, what was great about the Superstore and being the GM of the Superstore was that you got to meet so many different people in terms of like customers coming through. But on top of that, the team themselves, like a team of buyers, were like product experts, and so I was just so inspired by kind of what their knowledge was and just kind of their just expertise in what they're passionate about. I mean, I went into that job thinking that I knew a lot about music, and clearly I realized quickly that I did not. Even though like I had, been as a kid, a member of Columbia House when I was like 9 years old. My father signed off on my contract for like 13 cassettes for a penny or something. And I think I'm pretty sure I had a collection agency after me when I was 12, just because I didn't, you had to send back those cards. So music for me was always like a big deal. And I was always watch like Much Music Countdown and video hits on CBC. And I'd be obsessed with like top 8 at 8 radio, stations and stuff. And I'd always be like requesting Madonna. And anyway, so I just was like, one of those things where as a fan, I working for the Superstore was like a dream come true, because this is like, the playground you want to be in. And so, to kind of fast forward to pop music, obviously everyone knows HMV went into receivership and was bought by a billionaire. Well, that's not true, but it reincarnated by a billionaire into Sunrise Records. And so, anyway, with HMV, we had 27,000 square feet, so it was a massive space, tons of opportunity in terms of being able to show off different genres, different things like collectibles, video games at the time. And by about 2012, there was this kind of like bubble, this little like ting 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 going on about vinyl, and we always had vinyl at the Superstore, and I didn't really pay much attention to it, to be honest. I wish I would have, like, I would have bought a lot more records back then. But I remember it kind of becoming like a thing. We had it in a little corner on the second floor, and then we put it on the third floor, which made no sense, but we was bigger, and so therefore it became like a destination. But then, really, in around 2011, with my regional manager, I was like, Steve, like let's put a proposal out there to bring vinyl to the main floor. Let's do like a vinyl shop on the main floor. Like, let's just go crazy and let's do it right. Like, none of this kind of like, 8 feet, 10 feet, 12 feet sections. Like, let's go like 90 feet. And so that's what we did. But it took a lot of convincing. Vinyl was a very dirty word. Like, so with one of the VPs, we weren't even allowed to say the word vinyl. It was dirty. Like, it was just, they didn't want to touch it. Labels didn't want to touch it. So it's kind of, and that was really legitimately only 12 years ago.
Well, it's interesting because I remember I didn't even realize that HMV had vinyl until the vinyl shop showed up on the first floor.
Right, which was again, I played such a big role in that. So that experience allowed me to kind of have the confidence to do pop, to be honest with you. I really, again, going into pop thinking I knew what I needed to know, I've learned so much over the last 7 years, but again, that superstore experience allowed me to kind of build a record store, but not pay for any of the product myself, which is a key thing because, vinyl even back then was still a big investment, and it was all one way, and we couldn't send it back to the labels and things. But I was able to kind of like get a familiar vibe in terms of what's sold, and that's kind of for me why I chose the brand of pop music as kind of my next incarnation, because that's what I was going to focus on. I had all that knowledge of looking at weekly sales reports for years in terms of what people actually bought. And I think that is the ultimate formula for success in business, is to know what actually people want. You can be niche, you can be specialty, but at the end of the day, you got to pay your rent. And so for me, pop music was about being unapologetically commercial, and knowing that at the time we were obviously moving to a smaller space. I mean, I didn't know, just how much records we'd be moving every single year. I remember having some original sales targets and stuff for myself and thinking, okay, if we just did this, we can make it. And, but what I quickly learned once I opened the store in Girard was that, you can never have enough. And it's so easy as a buyer to continue to add to your mix and add to your mix. And let's try that. And then customers, really, that's kind of where it really began for me with the relationship with customers, even with pop music, is being able to listen to them, take their requests, take their feedback, and then try to incorporate it into that small space, and so we kind of had to let go of certain things, and then, expand other genres. Like for us, soul music was a huge one that we really kind of ended up, growing in that space as much as we could, but there were sacrifices. We couldn't really have a proper punk and metal section because of that, or country folk. And so, so back over there, we had to really kind of shift and shape. But again, the core of that though was HMV in terms of knowing exactly what would pay the rent. And so, and I had the fortunate ability to kind of carry over most of my relationships from HMV in terms of getting an account set up. So I got to go direct with all the major labels, which doesn't happen very often with new startups. A lot of times you're kind of forced to do one stop, which is fine. But at the end of the day, you want to get the best price possible. So, and also have things on release day, key things. So with pop music, that's kind of how it was born, was just kind of out of all this experience from HMV.
So in 2017, HMV closed down.
Mm-hmm.
And by the end of the year, November 2017, pop music opened up. How big was that space on Girard when you guys first opened?
360 square feet.
Which is like pretty small. I've obviously been there.
Tiny. We were legitimately, but what was great about that space, it had tall ceilings, and so I think we could we really did. I really maximized every inch I could. Like, so we would have rails. I know when I first opened, I only had two set of rails above my catalog, and then I went to 3 like within the first year. And then by the cash desk and then by the accessories, I ended up kind of adding all this extra shelving just to kind of maximize that space. But we turned a lot of records. I think people were really, I remember talking to some labels in those early years, and they're like, "You're telling how many records a year or how many records a month?" And I'm like, "That's what I'm doing." And so there was a lot of surprise about being, and also it was very controversial too, because I didn't do used records. And I'm not sure if it's still the case now, but I'm still the only record store, or one of the only record stores in the entire country, that does not do vintage records.
Well, aside from like Sunrise or something like that.
No, Sunrise, they have like a stupid used section. I say stupid because it's not great, but at the time, again, and it was a gamble, because record stores need the margin dollars from used records. Like,
of course,
at the end of the day, margins for records are very, very, very minimal. Everyone should know that. And you need to have the margin of being able to buy a record from somebody for $1 and sell it for 20. And that's literally what happens on a daily basis here in Toronto. So it's like, and that's great. I just never interested me. I didn't want ever to go into that world. I'm a collector myself, but I'm not that kind of collector. And I never had any passion about thumbing through someone's dirty collection and going to someone's dad's basement and having to like ruffle through boxes. None of that ever appealed to me. So instead, what I'm passionate about is graphic tees. So I could wear graphic tees my whole life. And so, and I knew that there was a local vendor at the time called Philco's, who I was using to kind of bring in some really core styles. I mean, Zeppelin, Stones, AC/DC, the usual. And then in 2018, I kind of like I don't like I don't like what's happening with this company in terms of like offer. It's very basic. I want to be different. And so I knew of a brand that we used with HMV called Rock Off, and they're based in the UK. And now I'm probably one of the only record stores. I know I'm the only record store in the city that has their products in my store, but it's all incredibly high quality stuff. Really cool licensing. It's always been updated. It's always fresh. It's always interesting. It doesn't give me all the artists that I want, but I love the fact that we can cycle in, new styles all the time. And so, and then again, this shouldn't be any surprise to anybody, but obviously there's margin in apparel. That's how HMV, towards the very end, our strategy was to do, if we could do 80% of our business in core products, so DVD, Blu-ray, vinyl, CDs, and we did 20% in non-traditional businesses, then that would work. That was their strategy. And so unfortunately, some of that non-traditional stuff got a little bit crazy, and they're doing like art poster frames and like stupid stuff and plushies galore. And anyway, it became like a very mixed message, especially if you shopped HMV in a mall store. You're bombarded with everything but the core product. So,
Well, it's kind of like what you're seeing at like GameStop and all these places where, or even like Shoppers, Drug Mart, where they're bringing all this stuff that's not really the core product, or like Indigo, for example, where it was originally just books, and then now it's like all this lifestyle and
you're like, where are the books?
housewares.
So yeah,
Yeah,
no, it's
exactly.
true.
Where
I
are the
mean,
books?
it's true. And again, I don't fault them. You have to pay rent, and you have a lot of wage. I mean, wage costs now are more than ever. I mean, wage costs for me are arguably way more than I ever could have imagined for a small business. And I'm not complaining about that, because my team is incredible. But the reality is, customers don't recognize the cost of that in terms of like how much markup needs to go into a product in order to pay for great people.
Of
You know what I
course.
mean? And,
Apparently,
and
it's great when it's just you and you're
right,
just paying yourself. But then once you start growing your staff,
right.
there's all that. But before we get into all that, like, I know you were saying you were seeing a lot of success, and I know your motto is just for fans,
Yeah.
or for the fans. Sorry, just
For
for
the fans.
fans is
For the
something
fans.
else.
Yeah.
um,
Only fans. Sorry.
I don't know if you have one of those, but um, so do you think that general your curation of the store um has been a key part of your success, as you're not like carrying all this other stuff that doesn't move as quickly?
Right. Well, I think the big thing for me is I don't go for a lot of new releases, which is interesting, because I feel as though we're bombarded with, no doubt, 100 titles every single week that come out on a Friday. I will buy at best 4 or 5, maybe 6. I don't need. The thing is, like, those are such high risk titles. We live in a world of streaming. We live in a world that's instant. And unless it's a Beyonce, or unless it's a Vampire Weekend, or unless it's a Black Keys, I just can't roll the dice sometimes on some of these smaller artists. I try to, like, I definitely have like a handful of artists that I choose every single month that I'm like, okay, these are the ones I want to introduce people to, because there's brand value in that. Because at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, here's the stuff you came in for, but this is the stuff you didn't come in for, and you need to listen to it. And so, so curation for me for this store is rooted in really the fans, and being able to listen and take requests and pay attention to. For us right now, pre-orders are a huge thing. So that's kind of how I'm tackling new releases now. It's like, the pre-order pages are up. Our prices are better than Amazon. We have indie exclusives. We're trying to play the game a little bit better with new releases, but still, I'm reluctant to really go crazy unless I just truly feel as though there's going to be, a fast turn on it, because we just don't have the space. Even in the newer store, we don't have the space. And also too, like, the longer something sits in your store on the shelves, then the shrink wrap gets torn, or like a corner gets bent, and it's just, you want it to move. And so, for here, at Pop Music last year, we sold 30,000 records. That's turning every single record that's on display or in a bin in the store 3 times.
Wow.
That so it's like, and obviously not every record is turning 3 times, of course, but that's the strategy. And any record store there that doesn't have that kind of filter, you end up just collecting, and you need more space, and then all of a sudden you have dump bins on the floor. Then all of a sudden you have things tucked in corners and crates in corners, and I never wanted any of that. I wanted to keep it clean. Even I made a bold choice with this new space to not have it underneath bunks. I really just kept everything like waist level and above, and I didn't. And there's a nice cool like kind of void space underneath the bins, because I kind of wanted to keep the cleanliness of the fact that it was like more curated. So I hope that kind of answers your question.
Of course, and I actually appreciate that there's no underneath bunks, because those are always
Nobody wants
like
to go down there. Nobody wants to
it's
be
a
in their
pain in the
knees.
ass and a pain in the
No,
knees.
it always like, and at the end of the day, I just feel as though, we can get anything that's in a warehouse with a label within 10 days. So if we don't have it in stock, we can definitely get it for you. We'll still be cheaper than Amazon. And, it's just one of those things. But that being said, I'm always in like, there's ebbs and flows of our product flow. Like obviously we're bringing in 200 titles for RSD, and where are those going to go after the fact?
Mhm.
So they need to go away is what needs to happen. So even with RSD, it's a big gamble to bring all that much inventory in, because you don't know, truly you don't know if the fans are going to buy it. They can say they want it, they can request it and be like, oh, I'm dying to have this, but then they see the price point of $60. They're like, maybe I don't want it after all. And that's the world we live in. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of the UK titles are expensive, and you want that exclusivity. There's a price with it, and so sometimes those things just at the end of after the event's over with, they're still there, and it's like, well, we tried.
Well,
But,
luckily now with the website, fans are able
mm,
to check out how much it is before getting to the store. I remember before you guys and before Dead Dog had your websites, you were going into record store day blindly,
yeah,
not
and you still
knowing
are in
how
most
much you're
stores. Yeah,
not knowing how much you're going to spend. But before we
right.
get into the record store
Record store
day,
day.
there's two more things I wanted to talk
Yeah.
about pop music. First of all, um, the website. So that
Mhm.
website, you went e-commerce in 2019.
Yes, with a very kind of basic. I wouldn't say it wasn't basic. It was just very limited in terms of what it could do, and Google hated it, which was a major problem if you have a website that Google hates, because no one will ever find it unless local people find it
That being said, I guess it was almost a good choice to start that endeavor
before
just
the
before the
pandemic.
pandemic.
100%. Yeah.
Um,
And it still did well. I mean, when I remember telling people, because it was actually during the pandemic that we were transitioning, and we'd already had a plan. We already signed the contract before everything happened, and I was like, oh, the new website's gonna be great. Well, what's wrong with the old website? I'm like, I could list off the things that are wrong with the old website, but it's just like, but fans were so appreciative, I guess, of the fact that having that existing, and it was a learning curve for me, because I remember writing product descriptions and stuff and trying to be creative and quirky and things, and it's a lot of work. And now, thankfully, a lot of SEO, not SEO, but a lot of copy in terms of like what a record is about, is actually published, and so we have our sources for that information now. We modify it to kind of tailor it to our brand, but at the time there wasn't a lot of copy out there in terms of what a record was about without plagiarizing. And so anyway, so just I learned a lot in that first website, and then I remember our very first record store day with that website, and thankfully we had some fans of ours that were on Reddit, and because of Reddit, and not because of Google, because of Reddit, we were able to sell through a lot of things in 2019. And I remember being like, okay, wow, this is changing the game a little bit, and then so the website for me, it's we'll talk about the transparency thing when we talk about record store day, but the website for me was about reaching other markets, and obviously being only a less than 400 square foot store, I needed to obviously have a bigger reach than just Gerard and Broadview, and so we made the investment choice in 2020 to change hosts, and I learned a few tricks about SEO, and now we rank really high in Google. So so we're now arguably, I would say, one of Canada's leading online record stores. We do a lot of orders, and I'm grateful. Obviously, I don't take that for granted, because again, we live in a world of Amazon, and but we try and put a lot of effort into our web pages. We do track listings. We talk about the record. We do related products that make sense. everything is very intentional about the website. The homepage is very intentional. Everything is intentional. So there's things I want to improve on it, of course, but I do feel really proud of how much it creates for us in terms of revenue and being able to pay my team. Like I have staff wages who rely on the ecom. Like really, like I can afford to have the team that I have because of the website. So
It's interesting. About a month ago, I was going through my Instagram feeds, and there is a user in the Philippines, and they had gotten a Madonna record from pop
oh
music.
wow,
I was just
shocking.
like, "What? All right, that's cool." I,
That's why.
I didn't reach out to them and ask them about it, but like, how much of your e-commerce are these people on Instagram or wherever internationally kind of finding your
Oh my
brand?
gosh, we still talk about Instagram. My goodness, I don't even with Instagram. Gosh, I don't even know how business would have survived 10 years ago without Instagram. Like I don't even try that hard with it. I mean, I'm very like there's a lot of record stores that will literally just hold up a record and be like snap, and I'm like I've never been that record store, and I could probably fill my feed up with 5 more million things a day, but with Instagram for me it's a point of view. And yeah, I'm selling things 100%. It's obviously we're pitching product all the time, but we're doing it in a way that kind of is, I don't know. I'm presenting things that people want, and I'm also using it as opportunity to present things that people don't want. So I know there's times where I'll do a post about like an artist that I'm passionate about that nobody else gives a crap about, and so and I'll know that it will get like 23 likes at best, like 23 likes, maybe 30 if we're really lucky.
Hmm.
But I could post about Swift or Rodrigo or Noah Khan, and it's like 200 likes instantly. You know what I mean? So it's just like but that's the thing with Instagram. It's like you got to be able to, yeah, you have to still make it about you, and so we still try to present albums that we're passionate about as a team or whatever. And um, but again, where the website plays into that is that people will see it on the gram and be like, I want it. So pre-orders for us, especially like if we announced a pre-order for Swift or Billie Eilish in the last few weeks, and instant reaction. Beyonce was a huge one, obviously, when we did the breaking news, Cowboy Carter available in store, which wasn't initially part of the plan. And so, that online piece allows me to be more confident because then I can then order 100 copies of something, which we've done multiple times this year on big releases. And stores are like, "You're ordering 100 copies." I'm like, yeah, I need them. I need 100 copies of this release for release day, and if I don't have them, then I'm leaving opportunity out there. So I'm letting Amazon have that, and I don't want Amazon to have that. Not to be
Yeah.
greedy, but it's just this is a business. So let's not pretend. So
Well, like
and
Madonna
this is
Celebration, the
huge,
reissue.
massive. We sold probably more than anyone else in Canada. We took almost Warner shipment. We took like probably 40% of it. So but again, that's just knowing your market and knowing the fandom and appreciating that fandom, because there's so many stores that go out there where fans go in and they feel so shy and so embarrassed and so like timid to like let their fandom shine. And so for me with pop music, it was about letting your fandom be fandom, whether you're into, whether it's shitty, grunge rock that, nobody knows about, or whether it's like, Britney Spears, which just kind of putting different examples out there, let be a fan. That's what it's about. And I think that with, with a lot of the legacy artists, Prince, Bowie, would be two other great examples where they have massive reissue campaigns, and I want fans to be able to kind of come in and celebrate the fan. So
And one of the other ways you celebrate the fan is your rewards program. Do you want to tell us a little bit of that?
yeah, we're probably one of the only record stores in Canada with the rewards program. We call it Pop Stars because that's fun and cheeky. And the whole thing about it is just, for me, the vinyl prices have gone so crazy. I thought if we kind of can launch a program that builds a bit of relationship with fans, gives them a bit of a discount or gives them offers, then we should do it. Originally, the program it ran 2 years on one platform, and we just changed to a new platform that's a bit of a learning curve and a much greater expense. Like I do think that, I mean, with our prices, I try to pay attention to what other stores are charging, but there could be a time where I need to be $1 more or $2 more because the program does cost a significant amount of money. And so that's what this first year with this new host is about, is just trying to figure out the dynamics of it. But the idea behind it really was to kind of create a community and be able to target our followers in terms of being able to, you know, reward them with different incentives and birthday rewards. And and we do, like, right now we're running our first ever multi-point offer. Like, we've never been able to do a multi-point offer before, so it's 2 times the points yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And we couldn't do that with the old program. So, and now there's a cute little widget when you go onto our website, and it tells you everything that's going on. And yeah, so it's an investment, and I'm really hopeful that a year from now I'll look back and say, yes, it was worth it, and let's continue. Because, you know, these things do cost money, and we're not owned by Galen Weston. We're not Plum Rewards with Indigo. We're just a tiny independent record store. And so, to have a rewards program is pretty special. And I hope that fans can understand there's a cost to it. And so that we're trying to balance the commerce with the fun. You know what I mean?
But the thing about the rewards program, you have customer retention that way, and they're coming
Yes.
back because they know they're getting something. Often I'll buy it with you online, come in whenever I can come get into the city, but knowing that I'm getting points for that purchase versus, buying it somewhere else.
Right. Well, it was funny when I and the point collection thing is its own piece, where some people like to collect points. They just love to collect points and they don't ever redeem. And so it's like, we were doing all the transfers over to the new program, and I'm like, wow, these people have a lot of points and they're not really using them. And it's like, it's fun. I mean, what I'm having fun with right now is the offers. Like, so we gave members $2 off extra on Black Keys. There's $2 off right now on the Vey. So we are doing extra incentives just for our members, which we couldn't have done before. Before, how the program was working, it was really just a spend money, get dollars off, which doesn't really generate anything extra in terms of like interest or excitement. And so this new program allows us to kind of play it up a bit more and have a bit more fun and do some more creative things. We're going to do a spin to win. So like, there's an opportunity to do like I know that sounds really, really tacky, but I'm curious. I'm like, let's do like a random weekend in like the summertime where nobody's in the store, and we'll do like a weekend where you come in and you spin a wheel and you get like whatever, you know what I mean? Like, I know that sounds so tacky, but it's fun.
When you're spending as much, money on your collection as I do, I've already redeemed like my pop stars like twice or 2 or 3 times over your max level. Because it's worth it to me.
Yeah, well, that's why I wanted to change the levels too. So right now we have like a pop superstar status, and so if you spend $2,500, sorry, $1,000, $2,500, or $5,000 a year, you actually get more points per dollar. And so that to me was really important to change the redemption element, just in order to kind of reward those who are spending lots. We have clients who spend $10,000, and it happens every single year. And so, we have clients who spend $5,000 to $8,000, and it's like, I feel like the way that our program was working before, it was kind of like limited in terms of what they were really getting. And so now we're able to even like, I can actually now even target with exclusive offers those different tiers. You know what I mean? So I have a lot to learn. This is me learning, and I kind of like that, because it allows me to let my team run the biz, and then I can kind of get better at some of these other things. So, I think that the whole journey for pop has been like that, though. I mean, even the e-com, I didn't know anything about e-com. I had no e-com background whatsoever, and being able to learn everything as I went, and then becoming really good at it. So,
the store has been open just over 6 years now. Record store day and purchasing for that. Let's get into it. So
record store day is a beast. It's a cash grab. It's a lot of things. It's a fun event. And I'll talk about the good stuff first. So the great thing about Record Store Day is the labels genuinely try to make exciting releases come out. Like, they generally are being creative, and they're trying to like really present fun, unique releases that fans are going to want to queue up for, because that's the end of the game is commerciality. However, in recent years, there's this kind of upswing in 7-inch singles. FM broadcasts becoming official, like which are basically bootlegs, becoming official releases. You're just seeing a lot of unnecessary stuff come out, so it's becoming a bit clouded. So for me this year, when there's 4, this is like the biggest list ever, and so I'm so lucky because with my pop stars, they really kind of came through, and I didn't want any DMs, I didn't want any comments. I'm like, if you really want this release, you need to email me, do the work, because that's really what it's about. Is like it's a major investment for me to roll and buy some of these titles. I bought things that I never would have thought I would have bought ever before, and so some deep dives into like death metal and whatnot, and it's like not really our brand, but hey, if you want it, I'm going to try and get it for you. And so that was kind of my mentality for this year. And so we ended up having, now 200 titles confirmed for the weekend. And, again, I didn't, every year the offer is a bit different. I mean, there's times where, like last year we had a Taylor Swift release where, there was crazy demand for that. And we had like 150 copies, which was a lot of one release. This year, my biggest title that I have is the single from Olivia Rodrigo and Noah Khan. That's probably my biggest unit count. And then everything else is kind of like everything from 3s to 5s, 10s. There's a lot of 15s, a lot of 20s, a lot of 25s, where I could, because the thing is, we're a bit limited by, just because you ask for 100 doesn't mean you're going to get 100. With LeVay, which is, right now one of the biggest, jazz pop sensations in the world, like her RSD release is only 4,000 copies worldwide, which makes no sense. No sense. We don't live in that world anymore. And so that should have been a 15,000 unit distribution, but it's not. And so fans who thought I would have like 20 or 25 or 30, I have 5. So that's kind of the reality of it. I mean, I know that one of your releases you're looking for is, Dolores, and it's like they made 600 of those. Why would they what's the point of making 600 of anything? Like for RSD, for a major artist like that? It's like, why are we not even doing 1,000 or 2,000? Like, and I get that the labels are also wanting to be responsible, but you got to be able to kind of, I don't know. It's hard to navigate the waters. But again, I go back to it as the fans. Like this year, the fans were so vocal, so awesome. And that really helped me kind of shape our offer and be able to present, I think, one of our most diverse RSD offers of all time. And, and I'm still chasing product. I mean, even this morning, I'm emailing the vendors, what have you got left in the warehouse? Let me know. I want to order more, because there's certain things that I didn't get enough of from a label. And this is where costs come into play. So in theory, there's a base cost for every product, so, what the label charges me and what I pay, what I pay for it. But then the label only sends me a third of my order, but I see like a third party has extra copies. I'm then going to those third parties and buying those copies as well. But those copies cost about 20% more. And so then I need to change my prices to make it make sense. And so like, it's a bit of a game, and I hope that fans understand that, that if it's not as cut and dry in terms of like, this is what it should cost. There's variables across, if you look at record store day titles and costs across Canada right now, every store is selling them for a bit different price, because everyone's getting their product from different places, aside from just the regular source. You know what I mean? So, so I'm playing the game. I'm nervous as hell. I'm at night time. I'm like, please let this ship on time. I have a huge order, in transit right now that I'm hoping that should land on Friday, if not sooner. And so, but I'm full of anxiety, because it's like, I want to have that stuff for the fans on Saturday,
Yeah, we've had this conversation several times over in the past.
Every year. It doesn't change. It's every year. It's the end of the wire. Like this is like that pressure, and it sucks, because I see record stores in the US, and they're like, last week they're doing a little like walkthroughs, and they've got all the product already organized in bins. I'm like, our stuff is still in warehouses. Like, so it's just frustrating, because you want it to be faster and not have as much stress on these moments. And it's just, I guess it's part of the game. But it'd be great if one day, if we had it where things came the week before, so that we were able to not be so stressed out and not have to chase things. Like, again, I'm chasing things, trying to get them into the store by Friday.
Well, and then you still have to process it to get into the system so it can get on the floor on Saturday. And
then adjust pricing based on what the cost is. Yeah, absolutely. And then that's why I was very transparent last week with a post on Instagram and Facebook saying, cost may change. I want to sell it for you for this price, but if I'm paying more for it, you got to pay more for it. So that's, and again, it's still going to be cheaper than buying a flipper on Discogs the next day, and that's one thing for us. E-com is huge. We did 400 orders in the first hour, 2 hours of last year. I had never ever seen that level of demand. And so this year, even if my stuff is late, which it's not going to be, I know what I'm getting, so I can put it online. But I really want the fans in person to have it first. That's the integrity of the event, and because they're going to be lining up at 2 a.m. or earlier, who knows? And that lineup last year, I mean, there's an Instagram reel that went, it was pouring rain and their fans were so resilient. I mean, it was literally non-stop rain. It wasn't like a drizzle; it was pouring for like most of the first 5 hours of the line. So like it just, yeah.
What tips do you have for fans who are planning to come out on Saturday to your store or any record store?
Know what they have. I think anybody who foolishly lines up at a store that has not published what they have, quantities, actual numbers, hard facts, don't do it. There's no reason in this modern age of communication that record stores can't communicate, even if it's just a blog list. Like I know it takes some of the fun of the mystery out of it, but at the end of the day, time is money. And you don't want to go to a store that they didn't even order what you wanted. So I'm not saying to support me necessarily, although that'd be nice. But I think, support the record stores out there that respect you, that respect your time. And that to me, when we kind of changed the game in 2019 by publishing everything online before anybody else did, in terms of quantities and prices, it was about transparency and respect. It wasn't about being like aggressive or, taking the fun out of it. It was like, no, fans value this transparency. Mm-hmm. And so we've kept that as our value for the last 5 years. And so, and I know that we've kind of been a trendsetter in that respect because there's a lot of stores now that do it to some degree. And like Dead Dog followed us in 2020, or maybe it was 2021. And either way, it's one of those things where, you try to make it about the fans. That's what we are for the fans. And
it's great because then you could actually be in line and see what the inventory is. And I've hopped right out of your line or hopped out of the Dead Dog line because it's like, everything's sold out of what I want. There's no need for me to wait here anymore.
Exactly. And it's not a bad thing. I mean, I don't want you to waste your time with coming to us if we don't have what you want. Do you know what I mean? And I'm nervous, obviously, that there's certain things that people are going to expect that we have a lot of, and there just isn't going to be a lot of quantity. And so back to your question about advice is know your quantities, know what the demand is, be prepared to line up at 2 a.m. That's our world. There was a time where I would be kind of afraid to say that. I'd be like, 4 a.m., 5 a.m. No, this is a pop world. The artist offer this year is more pop than ever. And we should talk about that in 2 seconds, but it's more pop than ever. And these kids are relentless. They will line up. We've had times where we've left our store after setup and had a kid show up that like then. It's like, no, go home. Like nobody else is here. Like this is way too early. But I do feel as though this year, if the weather's great, which it should be, I know your quantities, and if a store is telling you they don't know what they have, they're lying to you.
It's that gone are the days where like 10 years ago I could line up 2 or 3 hours before the store opened and be the first or second in line, and now it's the case of like what you're saying, it's like midnight or earlier the night before.
Yeah,
where it's kind of like, similar to when game consoles are being released. And
shoes are a great example. Shoes right now in this world are the most lined up for product. It's like records no different. You're gonna have it for a long time. And I'm not being sadistic in the sense of like, line up early, ha ha ha. No, like I just want you to not be disappointed, and to have a fun experience. I mean, it is fun too. We have the fans out there, and we have major giveaways this year. This is my biggest giveaway year ever. We've partnered with Marshall and Audio Technica and Vinyl Blocks. We've got so much promo to give out on that line. So if you're in line by 7:30, you're going to get spoiled. And I can guarantee that no other record store out there is doing that in the city. So I know what it's like to be out that line. It sucks. And so I'm going to do my best to try and make sure that you have a great experience out there. I'm working on getting some designer muffins right now, or cupcakes being made for the first 100 people. yeah, I've got some stuff on the go right now. But it's because, again, I want fans to know that they're valued and they're not just being taken for granted, that they're out there waiting for hours, and last year in particular, the rain. So yeah. But but the joy of it too, though. I mean, I'll always hear stories where fans meet each other in line where they didn't know them before. They're kind of strangers who become friends, and then all of a sudden you follow each other on Instagram, and then it becomes like this relationship. And so, if I could be a catalyst for that, then I'm not gonna, that's also a good thing. So
Awesome.
there you go.
So I know we're coming up on an hour here, so let's get into some titles.
Yes.
What do you have to show us?
Welcome to the Pop Music Show and Tell. And I may not know everything about these releases because, to be honest with you, I didn't make a lot of the pages this year. I give full credit to Leanna, who's on my team, who I love. She has been responsible for creating every single Record Store Day page for this year. And so I've done my best to kind of play catch up. And then I've learned about the titles' names and what the demand is just based on fan requests, but I may not necessarily know the details. So forgive me. I'm just going to show you what is popular and what's most in demand right now. That is number one. So there's 15,000 copies of this. It's Noah Kahan covering Olivia Rodrigo covering Noah Kahan. It's a single, and it's the most in-demand record. Another popular release is the first ever picture disc edition of Rumors, because you didn't know you wanted it until now. At least it comes with a nice little cardboard sleeve versus that PVC sleeve. Some of the PVC sleeve that they sometimes do. So I hate the PVC sleeves. Sinead O'Connor there's a 12-inch single for her. You had Made Me a Thief of Your Heart. 10,000 Maniacs. There's no vinyl for them anywhere. So this is really cool that it's actually like a live record. They cover most of the discography. That should do well. Blur. Hard to believe this is 30 years old, but it's 30 years old. They just had a Coachella performance, a little controversial. But anyway, it's a picture disc. I love again that it's in an actual sleeve. What's this? What's that?
Hey.
There it is. What you tell me about this. What is this?
So obviously this got re-released or reprinted a few years back. Although that's just the regular album version, this is the complete version, which includes all of the B-sides, and there's live tracks that are extra that weren't included in the press that we got like 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah, and each side has like 5 or 6, like 4 or 5 songs on it, so it's pretty loaded. So we have a lot of them, which is good news for the fans. Really, like top 3 most wanted: Noah Kahan's sophomore record on a picture disc. Personal favorite: I'm a huge fan of the Soldies, which is basically like a new take on a throwback sound. So Penrose Records, which is a sublabel of Daptone. They did Penrose Showcase Volume 1 back in 2021. This is Volume 2. Which is really cool about this is a lot of these artists, like Two Sacred Souls, these are singles that are not yet out on an album. They're just on A-side, B-sides. So it's great to have a whole collection. A lot of demand for Jessie Ware. Her stock has gone up a lot over the last couple of years with the community. And so
rightfully so.
Exactly. And so a lot of her albums kind of from back in the day weren't really necessarily given a lot of attention. So this is one of them. And so fans are kind of excited for it because it has remixes and things. 10th anniversary edition of that. Speaking of anniversaries, RSD is a lot about anniversaries. So this is also the 30th anniversary of Nas. There's remixes and rarities on that from Illmatic. Here she is. There's our girl, LeVay, or Icelandic princess. So she's just changed the game in terms of pop jazz music. And so this record she recorded with the Icelandic Symphony Orchestra. And so, but again, only 4,000 copies worldwide, and we only have 5. And then we got a lot of requests for this, which is kind of a twin release to one that came up for Black Friday, which is Judgment Night. And so this is the Spawn soundtrack. Only 2,000 copies worldwide. We got 0.1% of the world's supply because that's how much demand there is on this. But again, it's just kind of a great kind of collection of like 90s artists. And this is very much like a more electronic side with like Prodigy and Moby and Orbital and things. So
cool.
So those are kind of some highlights. I mean, there's obviously so much, but those are some things that I know that people are kind of grasping at right now. So
so let me know, or let our audience know when you're open on Saturday and kind of where they can find you guys online.
So we are open 8 a.m. On Saturday till 6. We're going to join 15 people at a time. The lineup will go long. there'll still be a line at 1 o'clock, guaranteed. That's just the way the world works. A lot of people, especially that first hour, are coming in and buying bundles of products, so it takes a long time for them to process those orders, and so the line may not move very quickly. But again, we're trying to do what we can to make that line more fun. Other than that, again, you can be in line, you can see your quantities, you'll see the quantities dwindle as time goes on. So you just keep refreshing those pages and you'll see what's going on with that. And then if you can't make it to our record store on Saturday, our online store begins at 8 a.m. And you got to be quick, be logged in.
On
use
Sunday.
Google Chrome on Sunday. So
Yep.
use Google Chrome, make sure you're logged in, make sure you have an account, and ultimately make sure you know what you want. Like if you can't add things to cart because the system won't let you, but we will slowly turn that on at 8 a.m. So that's our plan. So, and then obviously follow all the fun at Pop Music TO, Instagram and Facebook and X. POPMUSICTO. And then of course, podcast.ca.
Lastly, actually, most people probably will know who are coming, but where are you guys located in the city?
345 Broadview, just a little bit south of Girard. You can't miss this. We have a big 14-foot facade, a huge shiny black record. It spins. It's cute. And come out. It'll be fun.
Awesome, Derek. Thank you very much for being on the show. I really appreciate it. I wish you all the luck on Saturday. Hopefully I can swing by. Originally I wasn't thinking of coming down. I actually might come down and do some crowd recordings and video interview people on the line and stuff.
Totally, absolutely. And we're doing, of course, in-store discounts all weekend as well. There's going to be other incentives in the store as well. You can win a Soundburger turntable from Audio Technica.
I want one of those.
I know, it's gorgeous. So we've got that. There's a lot of other incentives happening too. But if you follow us on the socials, you'll know all the details.
You guys got one of these too, right? The Beatles.
Oh yeah, we've got 20 of those. That is the first. That's the first ever Beatles RSD release.
This is the one from the original that came with the Foo Fighters. So
oh my gosh. Yeah, no, it's really cool. And we went big. Fans really want it. They really do. I mean, it's Beatles RSD. What else is there to say? I mean, it's just, and the fact that it's really well designed and really well packaged only adds more collectability to it.
Thanks again, Derek. Good luck on Saturday.
Yes, we'll talk soon.
Okay. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.